The sky above Earth shimmered unnaturally as massive Zorvan dropships descended, their sleek metallic hulls reflecting the pale blue atmosphere. The once bustling cities of Earth lay in ruin, overgrown with ivy and moss, the remnants of humanity seemingly lost to time. General Krythar stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his imposing frame silhouetted against the planet's horizon. His scaled lips curled into a smug grin as he addressed his crew. "Pathetic," Krythar drawled, his voice low and disdainful. "This planet was supposed to be the cradle of an ambitious species. Instead, we find ruins and silence. Begin the extraction. Strip this world of its resources and move on." The Zorvan crew, a mix of insectid and reptilian aliens, moved with precise efficiency. Their scanners pulsed across the land, mapping energy deposits and detecting minerals deep beneath the surface. "General," one of the officers reported, "scans confirm no intelligent life. Only scattered wildlife remains." "Excellent," Krythar replied, his tendrils twitching in satisfaction. "This will be over quickly." Deep below the surface, hidden in a labyrinth of tunnels carved beneath the ruins of a once thriving metropolis, Captain Lila Harkness observed the invaders through a cracked monitor. Her sharp eyes followed every movement of the Zorvan troops as they deployed into the overgrown streets above. The hum of their machinery echoed faintly through the surveillance feed. "They're underestimating us," Lila muttered, her tone grim but steady. Beside her, Lieutenant Marcus Reyes adjusted the controls of the surveillance system, zooming in on a group of Zorvan engineers setting up an extraction drill. "We've been waiting for this, Captain," he said, his voice carrying a mix of anticipation and anger. "They think Earth is theirs for the taking." Lila straightened, her jaw tight. "Not for long." She turned to the assembled resistance team, a mix of hardened survivors and young recruits who had grown up in the shadows of humanity's downfall. Their faces reflected a blend of fear and determination, the weight of generations pressing heavily on their shoulders. "This is what we've prepared for," Lila said, her voice cutting through the tension. "They think Earth is abandoned. They think we're extinct. Let's remind them who we are." The resistance members nodded, their resolve hardening. Marcus handed Lila a comm device, and she activated the tactical overlay on her wrist-mounted interface. The tunnels beneath the city were a maze of interconnected chambers and passageways, each one outfitted with defenses, traps, and surveillance systems. "We'll hit them fast and hard," Lila continued. "Sabotage their equipment, disrupt their operations, and send a clear message: Earth isn't theirs to take." Above ground, the Zorvan forces began deploying their machinery. Massive extraction drills bored into the earth, releasing plumes of dust and smoke into the air. Engineers operated advanced control panels, their alien languages a series of clicks and guttural sounds. Krythar observed from his command ship, his arrogance palpable. "Such primitive ruins," he remarked, gesturing to the crumbling buildings overtaken by vines. "It's no wonder this species couldn't survive. They were never meant to." A sudden explosion rocked the ground below, cutting off his musings. One of the extraction drills erupted into flames, sending debris flying in all directions. The Zorvan engineers scattered, their clicks of confusion echoing through the comm channels. "Report!" Krythar barked, his smugness replaced with irritation. "General, we've lost Drill Unit 3. An officer responded. "It appears to have been sabotaged." Krythar's eyes narrowed, his tendrils twitching with annoyance. "Sabotage? By whom?" "The scans detected no intelligent life." Another explosion answered his question. This time, it was one of the Zorvan transport vehicles, its payload of refined minerals reduced to a smoking crater. The panic among the Zorvan troops was palpable now, their orderly movements descending into chaos as they scrambled to secure their positions. From her vantage point underground, Lila allowed herself a small, grim smile. The Resistance's traps were working exactly as planned. Years of preparation had culminated in a network of carefully placed explosives, decoys, and automated defenses designed to disorient and delay any would-be invaders. "Targets disabled," Marcus reported, his fingers flying across the console as he monitored the chaos above. "They're scrambling, Captain. They didn't see this coming." "Good," Lila replied. "Let's keep it that way. Deploy the drones." Marcus pressed a button, and a dozen small, sleek drones buzzed to life. They shot out of hidden tunnels and into the open air, their lightweight frames almost invisible against the sky. Each drone carried a payload of high explosive charges, programmed to strike key Zorvan assets. The first drone dove straight into a cluster of Zorvan engineers working to repair a damaged drill. The explosion sent the aliens flying, their shrieks of panic echoing across the ruins. More drones followed, targeting transport vehicles, communication relays, and supply caches. The Zorvan forces, so confident just moments ago, now found themselves overwhelmed and outmaneuvered. Krythar watched the carnage unfold from his command ship, his anger boiling over. "What is happening down there?" he demanded, slamming a clawed hand onto the console. "General," an officer stammered, "we're detecting human activity. They're using advanced tactics and weaponry. They've been waiting for us." Krythar's tendrils coiled tightly, his expression dark. "Impossible. Humanity is extinct. This is nothing more than a remnant, a shadow of what they once were. Crush them." Back in the tunnels, Lila's team prepared for the next phase of their plan. The Zorvan forces were disoriented, but they were far from defeated. Lila knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped and retaliated. "Marcus," she said, her voice calm but urgent, "initiate the message." Marcus nodded and activated a nearby console. Across the Zorvan comm channels, a message began to play, transmitted from a hidden resistance signal. "This is Captain Lila Harkness of the Earth Resistance," the message began. Her voice was steady and defiant. "You've invaded our home. You've underestimated us. That was your first mistake." In his command ship, Krythar's claws dug into the armrests of his chair as the message continued. "Earth isn't abandoned," Lila's voice declared. "We're still here, and we will fight for every inch of it. Leave now, or face the consequences." The message ended, leaving a tense silence in its wake. Krythar's officers exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier confidence shaken. Krythar's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "Deploy the reinforcements. If these humans want a fight, they'll get one." As the Zorvan forces prepared for retaliation, Lila gathered her team in the Resistance's central command chamber. The room buzzed with energy, a mix of fear and determination palpable among the soldiers. "They're coming for us," Lila said, addressing the group. "But this is our home. We know these tunnels. We know this terrain. And we have something they'll never understand, the will to survive." The room erupted in cheers, the Resistance soldiers rallying around their leader. Lila turned to Marcus, her expression resolute. "Let's give them a fight they'll never forget." Above ground, the Zorvan reinforcements descended, their ships casting long shadows over the ruins. But beneath the surface, humanity's last stand was just beginning. The air in the Resistance command center buzzed with tension. Captain Lila Harkness stood at the central console, eyes fixed on the holographic map displaying the Zorvan troop movements. The aliens were regrouping faster than she had anticipated, their reinforcements spreading through the ruins like a venomous tide. "They're sending heavy artillery," Marcus Reyes reported, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "Looks like armored carriers and aerial drones. They're not holding back this time." Lila nodded, her jaw tightening. "Good. Let's see how they handle what's waiting for them underground." She activated her comm link, her voice echoing through the Resistance channels. "Teams Alpha and Bravo, prepare to engage. Hold your positions until they're inside the outer perimeter. No early moves, let them come to us." Acknowledgements crackled through the line. Lila turned to Marcus. "Activate the decoys. I want them chasing shadows." Marcus grinned and pressed a series of buttons. Across the ruins, holographic projections of human fighters flickered to life. They darted through the rubble, drawing the attention of Zorvan troops who mistook them for real combatants. The aliens opened fire, wasting precious ammunition on illusions. From her vantage point, Lila could see the confusion spreading through the enemy ranks. "They're falling for it," she muttered. "Classic overconfidence." On the surface, General Krythar paced inside his mobile command unit. The sounds of gunfire and explosions filled the air, but none of it seemed to be yielding results. His tendrils twitched with irritation as reports poured in from his officers. "General, we've neutralized several human targets, but they appear to be projections," one officer said hesitantly. "The real resistance remains hidden." Krythar snarled, his claws scraping the edge of the console. "Projections? These vermin are using trickery to delay us. Find them. Flush them out." His frustration mounted as more reports came in: disabled vehicles, sabotaged supply lines, and sudden attacks from unseen assailants. It was as if the humans were everywhere and nowhere at once. Beneath the ruins, Lila's team struck with precision. Using the tunnels to their advantage, they emerged at strategic points to ambush Zorvan troops before disappearing back into the shadows. Every move was calculated, every strike intended to disrupt and disorient. "Target neutralized," whispered one resistance fighter through the comms as he detonated a hidden explosive beneath a Zorvan carrier, sending it crashing into a collapsed building. "Stay mobile," Lila instructed, her tone sharp. "Hit them and fall back. Don't give them time to recover." In one sector, Lyra and a small group of fighters set up an ambush near a choke point in the tunnels. As a group of Zorvan soldiers entered, Lyra triggered a cascade of rubble, trapping the aliens in a confined space. The resistance fighters opened fire, their weapons cutting through the disoriented enemy. "They're boxed in," Lyra reported. "Moving to the next position." "Copy that," Lila replied. "Keep it up." Back on the surface, Krythar's frustration boiled over. The humans were exploiting every weakness in his forces, turning the very environment against them. He slammed his clawed hand onto the console, his voice a low growl. "Enough of this. Deploy the seismic probes. If they're hiding underground, we'll bring the tunnels down on their heads." One of his officers hesitated. "General, if we collapse the tunnels, we risk destroying any remaining resources." "Do it!" Krythar roared. "This is no longer about resources. It's about eradicating these pests." The seismic probes were launched, drilling deep into the ground and releasing powerful tremors designed to destabilize the underground network. The Resistance Command Center shook violently, dust raining down from the ceiling. "They're trying to collapse the tunnels," Marcus warned, his hands flying over the controls. "We need to move now." Lila's mind raced. The Zorvan seismic attack could destroy everything they had built, but it also revealed their desperation. "Activate the countermeasure grid," she ordered. "Let's show them what Earth's been hiding." High above the ruins, hidden on an abandoned satellite in orbit, a dormant system roared to life. Years ago, the Resistance had repurposed Earth's defunct defense satellites, turning them into a last resort weapon. Now, as Lila gave the command, those satellites targeted the Zorvan's seismic probes. From the ground, streaks of light shot upward, obliterating the probes in fiery bursts. The tremors ceased, and the Resistance fighters cheered over the comms. "Direct hits on all probes," Marcus confirmed. "The network's holding." Lila allowed herself a moment of relief before focusing on the next move. "They'll retaliate harder now. We need to hit them before they regroup." She activated a new sequence on the console, and a map of the Zorvan troop movements appeared. One area stood out, a forward operating base the aliens had established near the city center. It was heavily fortified, but taking it out would cripple their operations. "Teams Alpha, Bravo, and Delta, converge on these coordinates," Lila commanded. "We're going after their base. This ends tonight." The attack on the Zorvan base was swift and brutal. Using the chaos created by the earlier sabotage, the Resistance launched a multi-pronged assault. Explosions lit up the night as hidden charges detonated, breaching the base's outer defenses. Lila led the charge, her weapon blazing as she moved with precision through the enemy ranks. The Zorvan fought back fiercely, but their disarray left them vulnerable. Resistance fighters swarmed the base, targeting key structures and neutralizing high-ranking officers. In the heart of the base, Lila confronted a Zorvan commander. The alien loomed over her, its scaled body gleaming under the harsh lights. It snarled, raising its weapon, but Lila was faster. She dodged the attack and delivered a precise shot to its chest, sending the commander crashing to the ground. "Base is secure," Marcus reported as the last of the Zorvan forces were subdued. "We've taken out their comm systems and supply lines." Lila surveyed the battlefield, her expression grim but resolute. "They'll regroup," she said. "But this will set them back. We've bought ourselves time." As the resistance fighters celebrated their victory, Lila turned her gaze to the horizon. The fight was far from over, but for the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope. Earth wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back. And humanity wasn't done yet. The quiet that followed the assault on the Zorvan base was almost unnatural. Smoke curled from the ruins of the alien structures, and the acrid smell of burning machinery filled the air. Resistance fighters moved swiftly through the wreckage, scavenging supplies and dismantling what remained of the enemy's equipment. Captain Lila Harkness stood in the center of the scene, her eyes scanning the horizon. The victory had been significant, but she knew it wouldn't last. The Zorvan would retaliate, and when they did, they'd bring everything they had. "Captain, you should see this," Marcus Reyes called, his voice cutting through the stillness. He was crouched near a shattered Zorvan console, his fingers flying across the alien interface. Lila joined him, her brow furrowing as she glanced at the holographic projection flickering above the console. "What am I looking at?" she asked. Marcus gestured to the screen, which displayed a layout of the Zorvan fleet in orbit. "Their main ship. It's a mobile command center. If we take it out, we cripple their entire operation." Lila studied the projection, her mind racing. The ship was enormous, bristling with weapons and defenses. Attacking it directly would be suicide, but leaving it intact would mean certain defeat. "They'll be preparing for a counterstrike," she said. "We need to hit them before they hit us." Marcus nodded. "We could use the orbital defense satellites. They're still operational, but they'll need manual targeting from one of the uplink stations." Lila glanced at him, her decision immediate. "Then that's what we'll do. Get a team together, we're taking the fight to them." The uplink station was buried deep beneath the ruins of a former government facility, its entrance concealed by layers of rubble and overgrowth. Lila led a small team through the dark, narrow tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Every step forward brought them closer to the station, and closer to the inevitable confrontation with the Zorvan. "This place gives me the creeps," one of the younger fighters muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Lila glanced back at him, her expression steady. "Fear's normal. Just don't let it stop you." They reached the control room without incident, though the tension in the air was palpable. The room was a relic of humanity's past, filled with dusty consoles and flickering screens. Marcus immediately got to work, his hands moving with practiced precision as he brought the system online. "Satellites are aligning," he reported. "We'll have targeting capability in 5 minutes." Lila nodded, her attention shifting to the map displayed on the main screen. The Zorvan fleet was still in orbit, their command ship at the center. Taking it out would mean dismantling their ability to coordinate and launch attacks, but it also meant drawing their full attention. "Prepare for incoming," she said to the team. "They'll know what we're doing the moment we activate this system." She was right. As the satellites came online and began locking onto their targets, alarms blared throughout the Zorvan fleet. General Krythar stormed onto the command bridge of his flagship, his tendrils writhing in fury. "What is the meaning of this?" he snarled, his gaze fixed on the holographic map displaying the active satellites. "General, the humans are attempting to use their orbital defenses," an officer reported. "They've activated an uplink station beneath the surface." Krythar's claws dug into the console. "Send a strike team to the station immediately. And prepare the fleet for bombardment. If they want a war, we'll give them one." In the uplink station, Lila and her team worked against the clock. Marcus coordinated the satellites, fine-tuning their targeting systems, while the rest of the team prepared for the inevitable assault. The room vibrated faintly as the first wave of Zorvan ships entered the atmosphere, their engines roaring like thunder. "They're coming," one of the fighters said, his voice tight with tension. Lila checked her weapon, her movements calm and deliberate. "Hold your ground. They'll have to come through that tunnel to get to us." The first explosion rocked the station, sending dust and debris raining from the ceiling. The Zorvan strike team was relentless, blasting through the tunnel entrance with brute force. As the dust cleared, the aliens charged in, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. "Hold the line!" Lila shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The resistance fighters opened fire, their bullets and plasma rounds lighting up the dark corridor. The Zorvan pushed forward, their superior technology giving them an edge, but the humans fought with desperation and grit, refusing to yield an inch. "Satellites are locked," Marcus called out. "Just need a few more seconds." Lila ducked behind cover, firing off precise shots as the Zorvan advanced. "You've got 1 minute, Reyes. Make it count." On the Zorvan command ship, Krythar watched the battle unfold on his screens. The humans were putting up a stronger fight than he had anticipated, but he remained confident. "Deploy the aerial drones," he ordered. "Overwhelm them." Dozens of drones descended on the uplink station, their sharp whines cutting through the air. Lila cursed under her breath as she saw them on the monitors. "Reyes, now would be a great time to finish up." "Just about there," Marcus replied, his hands moving frantically over the console. The drones swarmed the entrance, firing volleys of plasma that forced the resistance fighters to take cover. Lila gritted her teeth, her mind racing. If the drones breached the station, it would all be over. "Redirect power to the outer defenses," she ordered. "Take those drones out." Marcus diverted energy from the station's secondary systems to the perimeter defenses. Automated turrets sprang to life, blasting the drones out of the sky in rapid succession. The air was filled with fire and smoke, but the humans held their ground. "Targeting sequence complete," Marcus shouted. "Firing now!" High above the planet, the orbital defense satellites unleashed their payload. Beams of concentrated energy shot through the void, tearing through the Zorvan fleet. One by one, the alien ships exploded in brilliant bursts of light, their debris scattering like falling stars. On the command ship, alarms blared as critical systems failed. Krythar's tendrils flailed in fury as his officers scrambled to contain the damage. "General, the fleet is decimated," one officer reported. "We have to retreat." Krythar roared in frustration, his pride refusing to accept defeat. But the destruction was undeniable. With a snarl, he gave the order. "Withdraw! Get us out of here!" The resistance fighters cheered as the final Zorvan ship fled the atmosphere, leaving Earth behind. Lila allowed herself a small smile, though her expression remained grim. "It's not over," she said quietly. "They'll be back. But next time, we'll be ready." She turned to Marcus, who was slumped against the console, exhausted but triumphant. "Good work," she said. "You just saved the planet." He grinned weakly. "No big deal." As the team emerged from the uplink station, the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds. For the first time in years, the skies above Earth were clear. Lila looked out at the ruins of her world, her heart filled with determination. "Earth belongs to us," she said, her voice firm. "And no one's taking it away again."